Hey there, welcome to the NBA DFS build. NBA is a week away. NBA opening night, only a 2-game slate. But Taylor and I are getting ready to go over it anyways. There aren't even projections up. That's how far out we still are. But when it's only a week, it feels like it's just so close you can taste it. So we are going to go over it even without projections and look at each position and just highlight the plays that we like the most. It is a 2-game slate. You kind of have to get everything right to get a takedown on a slate like this. But still, hopefully we can help push you in the right direction. This is a live show, so feel free to chime in as you're viewing. And if anything we do here does help you, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and come join us in Discord, which you can catch linked on our YouTube page. All right, so start at point guard. You got Luka, you got SGA, 11K, 10.3K, obviously a pretty big price cap, but they also have immense ceilings, monster usage. We know LeBron's not playing for the Lakers, and we know Jalen Williams is banged up. OKC has a ton of injuries, by the way. So they both look amazing. Obviously, like if you can find the value, pairing them seems awesome on a 2-game slate, and they're both going to be pretty owned. Which way do you lean if you had to pick one right now?
Probably Luka. I just think the game environment is going to be a little bit better for the Lakers and Golden State. Like Houston and OKC could easily be like two of the top 3 defenses in the entire league this season. I mean, SGA is pretty matchup proof. Like he's going to grift. He's going to get to the line. His usage without Jalen Williams pretty, and he 177 DK points per minute without J-Dub last season. So, $700 discount, certainly useful. Luka averaged 1.87 fantasy points per minute without LeBron when he was a Laker last season. So hard to beat either of those. That's like Jokic territory for both of them. So yeah, like pairing them is pretty interesting. I think I slightly prefer Luka. I would expect the field probably will as well, but both fantastic plays with their star teammates out.
Yeah, right away, I'm not like that concerned about matchups just because we don't for sure know what teams are going to be like to start the year. Also, you have no FVV on the Rockets side. Maybe that hurts their defense a little bit. But just in general, I think Luka has a higher ceiling. I don't think you can go wrong here. But in terms of usage, I think we're going to see, Luka really just has to take over here with no LeBron. There is not really a solidified second guy to be concerned about. Well, Austin Reeves, I guess, but like other than that, like it's going to be the Luka show. So you can't go wrong there. Really, you could argue it either way. The next guy up is going to be Steph Curry facing the Lakers. Like this feels like the game between the two that I would gravitate towards the most. I think that might be a chalky approach, but Curry obviously could light it up here against the Lakers. And then right behind him is Amen Thompson at 7.9. Like dollar for dollar, Amen Thompson might be the best value of the entire slate. I mean, like 7.9 for Amen, he went nuts in his most recent preseason game. I know preseason, whatever, but Amen crushed it for us so many times last year. And here we go, opening night, no FEV to cut into his playmaking and some of that usage. KD is there now, so that does change things. But where are you at as far as Curry? Because we know how scoring dependent he can be. And how do you feel about Thompson?
Yeah, Curry's fine. Like I never really prioritize him. Golden State, certainly this early in the season, is not going to really push their guys too far. They have an extremely old roster. Him included, of course. So like for 9.3, like, yeah, he's cheaper than SGA, but is he cheap enough? I don't really think that discount is that useful. Like SGA is just a way better per minute guy for $1,000 more. So I'll just take that all day. Curry should be pretty low owned, I think, relative to the slate. On a 2-game slate, he's still going to be somewhat popular, but among the spend up point guards, he's certainly going to be 3rd or 4th in terms of ownership. So if you want to play that angle, fine. Thompson for 7.9. I wish he had forward eligibility. Kind of feels dumb that he's guard only, but it is what it is. I think Şengün is kind of going to be the playmaker for this team. So I don't really expect Amen Thompson to step into a point guard style role right away, but I think the scoring will be there. I think without VanVleet, there is obviously a little extra usage to go around. So I'm into it. Again, the matchup's horrible against Oklahoma City, but without Jalen Williams, maybe they're a little bit more vulnerable than usual. So could be a discount at 7.9 on him.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. I think with Curry, you're really hunting for like the 40 real points. Like if he doesn't go nuke then you're kind of wasting your cash here. We can get SGA for 1,000 more. You got to bypass one of those studs if you're going to play Curry. So you're really betting on two things. You're betting on Curry smashing, and you're betting on SGA or Luka like face planting. I don't think it's the best bet. Certainly in GPPs, YOLO, you can do whatever you want. But I think if I was going to go down here, I think Amen would be the next guy up after those top two studs. There is some value on this slate. Like, I don't really think I'm going to be super excited to play 6-6 Podziemski. I think he's in play because he's going to start, and he's in what I think is the best game environment of the slate. So I think he's okay. But I think Reed Shepherd at 4-9 probably going to be the starter, the fifth guy for Houston. Unknown how he actually is going to fit into this offense. You're a Rockets fan. You're going to have a better take there than I am. But we know he can set up the offense. We know he can hit outside shots. Pretty underrated scorer in general, and he just sat all of last year during his rookie season. It looks like, based off of summer league and preseason, he could be ready to contribute in a big way, right now. So at 4-9, he's one of my favorite value plays on the slate.
Yeah, I'm interested to see how the ownership goes with that, because he's going to start without Van Vliet. I think it's just, the issue is they have Şengün who can initiate, they have Amen Thompson who can initiate, and they have Kevin Durant who's going to take 20, 30
Right.
shots. So I think there's a chance Shepherd could just play kind of a passive role. The minute should be okay. I would expect upper 20s, maybe 30 plus. We don't really know how that's going to shake out. He was good when he got opportunities last season, even though there weren't many of them. But most of those came when Houston was pretty shorthanded. And in this game, they're essentially at, as full strength as they will be all year without Van Vliet. So I think he's a fine value just because he's 4-9 and cheap stuff is kind of hard to come by on this slate. But if he gets really steamed from an ownership standpoint, I think that's certainly something you can consider fading.
Yeah, I do think also, because of all the things you just said, he's kind of interesting if he doesn't start, because then he's going to get a little bit more extra usage off the bench. But just in terms of savings, I think Reed looks pretty interesting. Marcus Smart with the Lakers now. I think the fact that LeBron's not there could make him an interesting value at 4-3. Is there anybody else down here at the guard position that stands out? And what are your thoughts on him?
I just don't really think the minutes are going to be there for Smart. He's been really banged up for years. He's already a little bit banged up right now. They have Luka, they have Reeves to handle the ball. Like, if Smart's on the floor, he's probably just spot up shooting, and you need him to make 3 or 4 threes to be semi worth it, which is possible. I just don't really know if the minutes are going to be there for him. I'd rather play Shepherd if I'm playing a 4K point guard.
Agreed.
That's kind of it. Like, Aaron Holiday, Gabe Vincent might get minutes, but don't really want to play them.
100% agree. And I agree, I'm Reed over Smart for sure. But I mean, I'm just saying, if he's going to get run, 4.3, it's not the worst thing.
We don't know. Like, if he gets 15 minutes, that's not going to be enough.
It's pretty thin. All right, so shooting guard, Amen is over there as well. We have Podziemski, a lot of other repeats. Somebody who was not a repeat, and you would have thought maybe he would be point guard eligible as well, Austin Reeves. He looks pretty good at 7-3, especially if you want to just talk usage game, and especially if you are concerned about, first of all, a lot of times we wanted to play Amen Thompson. It had a good amount to do with him being small forward eligible. So him not being, it's slid over to the small forward slot, a little bit damaging. And then you have the KD thing taking his usage. You have Şengün doing more of the playmaking. So if you are on the opposite side of Amen and not into him as a value and think there's a lot of red flags, Austin Reeves at 7-3 looks pretty darn good.
Yeah, I think Reeves is probably going to be pretty popular, even though he's only shooting guard. But without LeBron, we know he gets more opportunity. He was at 1.32 DK points per minute without LeBron last season. Obviously, some of that was with AD before Luka got there, but still a good per minute guy. The pricing is interesting. I feel like for opening night, it's usually kind of loose, but on this one, it feels pretty tight. I think they're kind of efficient on the pricing. So not a glaring value at 7-3, and the lack of multi-positional eligibility is not ideal, but he's kind of in no man's land. Like, he's a much better play than Podziemski, who might not even start, who's overpriced for that Golden State disaster rotation. So not really into much beyond Amen and Reeves at this position. And then maybe Shepherd. You can get into guys like Dort and Moody, but it's kind of gross the further down you go.
Yeah, you can, but should you? Not really. I do think you're looking at like a Luca SGA point guard, and then you're looking at maybe Reed sliding here. But the reality is, like, it's for me, it's Amen, it's Reeves, and it's Reed. Like, there isn't much else to get excited about. Obviously, if you're creating a lot of lineups, you'll get a little bit of exposure to Pod. You'll get exposure to some of these like ancillary like punt pieces that you don't actually want to play, but the lineup optimizer is going to spit back at you. But as far as like just looking at the position, it's pretty gross. Like, there's case on Wallace there at 5-1. OKC super banged up. You could bet on him to have a big game offensively, but 5-1 case on, like, he's usually like 3.5K or something. Like, it just feels like a bit much for a guy who's like more scoring dependent than most scoring dependent cards are in the first place, you know? So I think we're pretty aligned there. Shooting guard, per usual, sucks. And just that's the way it is. So at small forward, KD, 9.7K. In terms of ceiling and volume, I guess he looks okay, but like in terms of him compared to the other superstar studs on the slate, I'm not really feeling it. First game officially as a Rocket in a regular season game. And it's like you're picking him over Luca and SGA. I don't really want to do that personally.
Yeah, I think he's going to come in pretty low owned. Like, people are probably going to play Şengün at 9.2 over him if they are paying for a Rocket, or Amen at 7.9. So I feel like fading Şengün and playing KD is kind of interesting. Like, if Şengün fails, maybe KD is the one handling most of the scoring in that scenario. He does feel a little overpriced. I think for most of last year with Phoenix, he was kind of hovering around 9K, and here he is almost 10K in a new role for a new team. So there is uncertainty, but I think on the first slate of the season, you kind of embrace the uncertainty and take the ownership discount you might get. So I don't mind that, and especially large field stuff.
Well, when you explain it that way, that is a little bit interesting. It is also worth noting he's not really contending with like a Devin Booker anymore. Like, the usage guys he's fighting against are a little bit different with Amen and Şengün. So just in terms of a ceiling and usage perspective, I think he's still viable, especially if he's not going to be owned. Just not the first stud I'm gravitating towards. It's going to get pretty bleak here. I mean, Jalen Williams, it doesn't even sound like he's going to play in this game. He says he's a ways away with his wrist injury. So obviously that's going to give all the other OKC guys a boost. If Jimmy Butler banged up and he's super, super old, he says he will be ready for the start. 8K Jimmy Butler isn't bad. I think that's solid. That's pretty good value. And then we do have saving options as we go here. So first, give your thoughts on Jimmy, just because J-Dub isn't really going to factor into this slate.
Yeah, I think Jimmy's okay. I think he's going to be a lot more popular than Curry, though, just the nature of the positions, and he's cheaper. So kind of the same thing I said with Şengün and KD. Like, if Butler's going to be 40% owned and Curry's 20% owned, then maybe that's a case to play Curry instead in a tournament lineup. But, you know, I don't really love the 8K on Jimmy Butler either. I just feel like there is actually kind of value at this position. Houston being without Van Vliet just kind of condenses the rotation a little bit. So Tari Eason was already going to play a big role, probably off the bench. He's 5'3". He's a good per minute guy historically. No Dorian Finney-Smith. So that's another rotation body missing for the Rockets. So I think Tari Eason, dollar for dollar, is probably the early standout for me here. Aaron Wiggins, perhaps, since J-Dub is probably going to be out, I think could play a pretty decent role. The issue is OKC just has so many interchangeable wing bodies that we never really know how that's going to go. So I do prefer Tari to Wiggins, but both are decent values.
Yeah, I wouldn't be too concerned as far as like trying to guess how that's going to work out personally. With no J-Dub, Wiggins looks like a very easy click. Obviously, that's going to probably boost his ownership considerably. So
that seems like a trap.
Yeah, I don't know though. I mean, last year it really very rarely was a trap. So when Wiggins got an expanded role, he's a pretty decent offensive player. I think on a 2-game slate, if he's going to be like 60, 70% owned, absolutely you can be like, well, fuck that. I'm not going to play super owned Aaron Wiggins. That's fine. But I think he looks pretty good. The thing with Tari is like they just like historically don't want to give him a super long leash for whatever reason. So that is a little bit, not great necessarily. And then he also is going to be playing, kind of in there with like KD and Şengün. So it's like, how much is he actually going to be able to eat into them? I don't know. But That
He gets
said,
steals and blocks and rebound. Like he
no, I
does
know.
a lot of stuff when he's out
I
there.
think
So I
in a
think he's a solid
vacuum,
play.
no, I'm with you. In a vacuum, they both look like very, very good plays. I do think on this 2-game slate, we may come to a point where we have to pick one of them, and one of them isn't going to work out. So I think pairing them is fine, obviously, but I expect them both to be very owned. There's not really much after that. Is there any other small forward option that is calling to you? I mean, those two guys feel like that's where I would start. That small forward would be Wiggins and Tari.
Yeah, I think Caruso is kind of interesting as well. We saw him play a pretty huge role for them in the playoffs, even though he wasn't starting consistently. Without Williams, maybe he sees a few more minutes. He's out there for his defense. He can knock down some shots. I don't really love that he's only a small forward, but 4-6 on a slate without great value, I think that's decent.
Yeah, I don't mind it. Nothing else that really calls me. The Lakers brought in Jake LaRavia, but I don't know how good we can feel about that. I mean, no LeBron, so it's we got to see what they do with the starting lineup, and who knows who comes in.
I mean,
after
Rui.
that,
we didn't mention Rui, but
yeah, why is he small forward only? What is going on?
Know.
Okay, yeah, maybe that's why I blipped over him, because I just assumed we'd be able to cover him in power forward. Rui's going to start and play like 32, 35 minutes. Rui's the same kind of play as Tari and Wiggins, low floor and a decent enough ceiling based off the minutes he's going to get. So I like Rui quite a bit, actually. I hate that he's not power forward eligible. It's so weird. I don't understand that at all.
There's a lot of power forward though. Like that position's pretty rich already.
Speaking of that, let's kick it over there. So KD obviously available there. LeBron with his sciatica. No, I've had sciatica, my friend. It actually just flared up yesterday. You can't dance. You can't dance with true sciatica. So he's just like chilling. He's taking it easy. Anyways, Jimmy's also available here. We have Chet Holmgren. What's his status? He is he's been missing preseason. He's got a shoulder issue. Sounds like he's probably okay. Is he going to play in this game?
I haven't heard anything to the contrary, so I assume
okay. So we've already talked about KD and Jimmy. 7-6 Chet, like especially with no J-Dub, seems pretty good. Like I don't have a problem with that whatsoever. I think with Chet, it's always like he has a surprisingly low floor considering how high his ceiling is. So for me, that is one spot where it is going to come down to the ownership. If everybody's big on Chet, I'll gladly go up to Jimmy or like double punt with these forwards that we're talking about. But on paper with no J-Dub, Chet could be the second usage guy for this offense. Really, I mean, there's no reason why he shouldn't be. So the ceiling's pretty massive, actually.
Yeah, I think he's a decent play. He's kind of a little bitch,
yeah,
which is a problem when he's going to be dealing with Tari Eason and Jabari Smith and Amen Thompson, perhaps. So it's not a great spot for him, and he is fully priced, I think, for the role, but he's okay. The cheaper stuff is a little more interesting. I think Eason, Jabari Smith, like I mentioned, should be starting for Houston. Mm-hmm. Horford and Draymond Green, the old-ass Warriors. I assume they're going to start together at the 5 and the 4. Don't really want to play Al Horford on opening night, but he's cheap and is okay. I think I prefer Green, though, if I'm playing one of those retirement age Warriors front court pieces.
Yeah, I feel like Horford's the kind of guy that if he's chalky, he definitely doesn't work out. And like if you're like, anytime you're like, I'm not playing fucking Al Horford, he gets like 35 fantasy
I don't
points.
think anyone's going to play him just because, you have Eason there, you have Wiggins there, you have Smith, all for cheaper.
Yeah.
So I'm not endorsing Al Horford for what it's worth. I think Draymond at 5'7" is a.
I'm going to play devil's advocate though, because Al Horford is capable of hitting outside shots. He is capable of getting rebounds. Like it comes down to like the Warriors don't really like to play their 5 that much. He's going to get like 15, 20 minutes most likely. I mean, he's probably the best true center they've had in a long time. But they still don't like to play them. They like to go small. They like to run a little bit more. So I think Horford, if he's like unowned, just a pivot off of those guys, okay. But I'm with you, not super excited about it. Dre would be the guy. Like obviously his triple double upside, very low floor, but he's usually okay, and the price is nice. I don't mind Kuminga coming off the bench. He's going to get usage. Also, speaking of low floor, but like they just signed him to an extension. I think there's a narrative brewing here. Like Kuminga is going to look to prove himself a little bit and be more assertive. I think at least that's the angle you can talk yourself into if you want to play 5'9" Kuminga. The other thing is I don't really see him as being like super owned on the slate. So I think 5'9" hammer off the bench with decent usage, I'm interested, man. I know it's not safe. It's a risky play, but I think it actually looks pretty good.
Yeah, I don't think anyone's going to want to play him as the most expensive front court guy off the bench. So it's viable. There's a chance he does not play at all.
That's true. That's true.
We've seen them do that with him often, but I think in a
So
regular
dumb.
season game, it's less likely.
Right.
Like you said, they did just give him a 1-year deal. I don't know what that really means. Like they kind of had to do it. So I don't
Fair.
really think that it's an endorsement of him from their perspective, but for 5'9", if Draymond is more popular and stuff, I think that's a fine pivot.
Yeah. Only other guy worth mentioning here would be maybe Jabari Smith, but it looks like he's going to get his role cut into considerably. And Tari is just the easy call over him. Are you still interested in getting to him, though, at all?
Yeah. I mean, it's the same thing. Like, he's the starter. Tari's going to come off the bench.
Right.
There's no Finney Smith, so that's another front court body who could take minutes that's not available. So I think Jabari is a really strong play. Like, if I don't really think Tari would be a lot more owned than him, but if it works out that way, pivoting to Jabari is a very easy and good move, I think.
Yeah, it's just going to come
other
down
way around.
to,
Like if Jabari's more
Right.
owned, then Tari's the pivot.
It's just a little scary because Jabari, like we keep talking about low floors, and it is a 2-game slate, so you're going to deal with several plays that are a little bit, thin or just don't feel great. That's just the way it is. Especially if you want to pay for Luka and SGA together. But yeah, I mean, like if he's going to start at 5K, like obviously he needs to be in your player pool. We already talked about these other guys. Jared Vanderbilt might get extra burn with no LeBron. I think at 3.9, speaking of thin, dude, that guy is mega thin. But no LeBron, he could be looking at like 20 plus minutes here. I don't think at 3.9 is the worst thing, especially in tournaments, which is basically all we talk about anyways. But how do you feel about him? Good old Vandy.
I think there's a punt center I would rather roll the dice on that we'll get to, but yeah, he might have a role. I don't know. He's got a pretty low floor though.
Oh, criminally low floor. All right. So at center, Şengün, you talked about before, 9-2 Şengün, little underpriced. Obviously, KD coming in there, impacting the usage to a degree. And the matchup with OKC, in a word, sucks. So I am not like super drawn to Şengün here. I would really hope he's more close to like 8-5 or something, given the matchup. So I'm not super excited. If he's going to be chalky, I will gladly go underweight. I know the upside is there, but that's just where I stand here. DeAndre 8 and 6'3", especially with no LeBron, I don't hate that. I think that's okay. It'll be interesting to see how that works out. He could just be completely toast, but you would imagine he'd have some usage with no James there. We talked about Chet. We talked about Dre. There's Horford. Hartenstein, he's on the injury report here, undisclosed. So I'm assuming it's just like rest and they're just taking it easy on him, but we'll just have to keep an eye on that. He would be totally viable at 5'4" going up against Şengün. They would need him for his size. Yeah, so that's the top end of this. I don't really want to go Şengün. It sounds like you're pretty open to Şengün. Or I think you mentioned like if Şengün's chalky, you like going up to KD maybe as a pivot there. So why don't you refresh where are you at on Şengün and who's the next guy if you're not going to play Şengün at center?
Yeah, I love him. I think without Van Vliet, it's really going to open up playmaking for him. I think he could average like 7 or 8 assists a game this season. So I do think there's more of a ceiling with him and probably a higher
not
floor,
an opening night.
A higher floor than he had in his previous role. So I expect him to be better this season. 9.2 I do think is cheap. I think he could be 10K before long. So I'm happy to buy low on him. If not him, I think Ayton's the obvious one. Like he should have a starting role. Like you said, the usage should be there without LeBron. Hard not to like that, especially considering after that, we're looking at guys like Horford again. So Şengün at the top, Chet, and then Ayton, obviously.
All right, then we go down here. We have Steve 4.2K Steven Adams, Clint Capella. The ghost of Clint Capella is back here. Nothing. I don't know. You said there's a center punt that you really like. I'm not loving any other center punts here personally. There's not a lot of value on this slate.
No, I didn't say I love it, but I'm interested in Quentin Post because I think Horford's not going to play a lot. Like I think Horford might have a ceiling of 24 minutes, and that opens up plenty of room for somebody else like Quentin Post, who has been starting, I think, in preseason, to play a role off the bench. He's 3'8", he can shoot. Not a safe play, but I think getting something like that right can be the difference if no one's going to play him in a large field tournament on a short slate.
It's certainly no worse than Vanderbilt. I'll give you that.
I think he's better than Vanderbilt.
Hey, so you've been a big proponent of Quentin Post, which you've said in Discord numerous times that's a fake name. But also, what do you think your hit rate is on touting Quentin Post?
Probably better than I thought at first, because at first I thought he was kind of a meme player, but I think he's actually a decent, capable rotation body. So
he looks like a lumbering oaf.
A Laker front court that really doesn't have a lot of depth. I don't mind taking that shot.
Okay, Quentin Post, everybody. I mean, if I'm talking about Jared Vanderbilt, by all means, you can bring up Quentin Post. Okay, so that's going to do it for the position by position breakdown. We don't have projections or ownership yet. Perhaps we'll do a second video where we take a look at where things are there, and then we get lineups or some semblance of lineups and maybe some more injury news as we go. So we're still a week out. Things are percolating. It's going to get there. But hopefully this early look helps you out a little bit. Hopefully videos like this where we break down the slate and look at each position also helps you out. If any of it does help you out, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel to show some support here, and then also hit us up in Discord. You can join the community there, and we will talk shop with you leading into the slates pretty much every day during the season. All right. Thanks for watching, and good luck.